So we're going to talk about prevention to the ascension. Prevention to the ascension has multiple levels of infrastructure fuckery that will stop you from ascending at the speed you should, due to the fact that there are things that will block you. Today we're going to talk about health insurance. We're going to talk about insurance in this country. We're going to talk about insurance in this country because there are people making moves based on fear that their FICO score is going to go down the drain if they go and seek treatment for a heart attack, for a tick bite, for whatever. And this is Ascension business. Because when infrastructures are leaning against you to prevent your own care, self-care, in other words, you may know you have cancer. We're going to talk about cancer. Because cancer in this country is the biggest hustle I've ever seen. There are so many fucking walks and fundraisers. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. So I'm going to start with the basic. Okay? We're going to start with the basic. In 2008, I was invited to the USC Symposium for Breast Cancer. There I met Dr. Susan Love, who had just battled leukemia. She wrote the very well-known book, and anyone who's had breast cancer knows this book. It's called the Big Book. It's called the Book of Breasts, the Book of Breast. In other words, the health of breast. And she was an advocate of that. And I'm going to tell you something that I saw, and they're telling me, my guides are telling me to share that with you. So I'm sitting, because the reason why I was invited, just on the side note, is because I had done a book called, I was working on a series of lino cuts for breast cancer survivors and their lovers. The basic transformation of women who had gone through, the removal of one breast or both breasts, right? So there were survivors. There was 3 different artists. I was one of the artists in residence for my work as an artist on representation of that. And because it was erotic in nature, because, the group, the USC Symposium chair and the members of the chair kind of fought back and forth over my work because my work was erotic. And one of the people who was supporting my work explained to them, she's not selling erotica. She's selling love. And she's trying to show how love can still happen, and desire and love can still happen when a woman's body has transformed. They're telling me to share with you every single thing that I've learned, damn near every single thing. What got me into doing this work was one day I was in the studio in Pasadena, California, artist studio. I was in the lino cut copper plate etching class, and I needed to come up with a series. And I was drawing an Amazon on her knees with a quiver and a bow, and she had one breast lopped off. Now, when I was 8 years old, I'd heard the story. It fascinated me. I was drawing Amazons like you couldn't believe. That Amazons used to lop off their left breast to become better archers, to lop it off, just like it was an encumbrance to their archery. And I remember drawing that and thinking, wait, hang on. This is these are warriors, Amazons. So the idea in 2000, when was that? I did that in 2006, actually. In 2006, I decided to do this whole series called Breast Cancer, and the Breast Cancer series. And so by 2008, magazines had done articles about my work, magazines that, were really on the edge of that understood what I was trying to say. And one of the articles I had read was about a young woman who was probably 27, 28, who basically had a double mastectomy and was trying to figure out on her second date how to tell her date that her potential beloved that she had no breasts, she had no nipples, she had no. How do I tell him? When do I tell him? This was a 27-year-old woman. So for women who were in their 50s and 60s, my work wasn't for them. Why? Because I had a massive attack from women my age group who were pissed off, saying, I just want to survive. And I understood that. I said, yeah, but this art's not for you. It's for women who are in the childbearing years, who after getting a double mastectomy, single mastectomy, want to have children. That means they want to have a lover, they want to have a beloved, and they want to build a life with their beloved. In my journey of doing my research for my work, I came across this beautiful, absolutely azure blue-eyed, red-headed woman who had a double mastectomy with angels tattooed on her chest, and she would wear like a motorcycle jacket and kind of like show it off. She was very, very cool. And she ended up meeting a man who was amazing. You all would have thought he was gorgeous. He was 6'4", gorgeous, big eyes, and he fell in love with her for her. No, she didn't need breasts. And they ended up getting married and having children. I remember her posing pregnant with, basically you'd say topless, but topless for what? There was nothing there. And she was absolutely the epitome of magnificence and sensuality and just gorgeous, delicious woman, example of a woman. And she was very important as an archetype for many women who saw her. And she was very big on Facebook. Long story short, going back to 2008 when I went to the breast cancer symposium for UC Davis. So I go up to Susan Love, and one of the things that she had talked about was that if the breast, the Susan K. Corman bullshit, all these fucking pink ribbons galore, if they didn't have a fucking cure by 2020, so it was 2008, right? If they didn't have a cure by 2020, she called her maidens, her women group, her guerrilla Amazons, right? Her guerrilla warriors. And she said, if the establishment does not come up with a cure, they're full of shit. That was it. That's what she said at the 2008 breast cancer symposium. And I thought that was correct. So I started like literally turning my back on the Susan J. Corman and other breast cancer, raising funds to save, to cure cancer, to cure breast cancer. It was a debacle, okay, because there were massive amounts of people making money. And I sat next to them, advocates, okay, advocates, grant writers, researchers. I sat next to all of them, attorneys, doctors, coming up with different formulas and different chemotherapy, but not an actual cure, just more methods, and more methods, but no cure. Like, take this and it's over. And so, on the side note, as I was sending my art to these breast cancer support groups and so forth, all of them rejected the work because it talked about a subject none of them wanted to talk about, which was intimacy, sexual intimacy, after those kinds of massive transformation. Here's why. I met many young women who had survived, but I also sat next to survivors, in other words, of women who had chosen to unaliven themselves rather than to go through chemotherapy or through the operations, through mastectomy. I remember one story that really, really shook me up. She actually lived in London. This was a woman who had lived in London. She was the mother of 4 children. She got the diagnosis, went to her husband, and he said, I don't want a woman with no breasts. That's what he said to her. Literally, that's what he said to her. And she ended up not having any surgery, any care, and she died leaving 4 children orphaned with, I'm going to call him an asshole as a father, okay? Another woman was Hispanic. She was 34, and her mother was going to pick her up to get the surgery to remove her, her I think it was her left breast actually, and found her unalived. She had unalived her herself. She couldn't face the world without having a breast. I had met a woman who was actually homeschooling with my son. Both of our sons were going to school together through a homeschool program. She had long hair down to her ass. Beautiful woman. And she had told me she had gotten the mastectomy, but she had never gone through chemo. That's why she still had hair. I also met a woman who actually developed alopecia due to the chemo, because the chemo, they never told them that the chemo they were giving the side effect, and it was a prominent side effect, would be permanent alopecia. So that instead of like being able to heal, she said it herself, she said, instead of me being able to have eyebrows again and hair again and and armpit hair and whatever the hell hair, right? And lashes hair to kind of move on and heal psychologically. I had to live with the incident of my challenged transformation for the rest of my life. It was never going to grow back because of a chemo drug that had actually permanently damaged not just her, but many, many women. And they knew it would do that. Now let's go back to the 1960s and 70s when women would find out what was going to happen to them. There was a massive disrespect of women in the medical industry in the 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, you guys know that. But the way a woman would know whether or not she had cancer in her breast was through surgery. So imagine this. So you go in because they're going to do a biopsy. Again, remember 60s, 70s, 50s. And the way a woman would know is after surgery, she would put her hand, she would touch for her breast to see if they were still there. And the way she knew that she had cancer was that the breast was gone. She would wake up with either one breast missing or both, and they would hear the screams, the despair in the hospital wing. That's how a woman would find out. Women would be treated in when they would be sat on a chair to be examined, and sometimes examined by a doctor and say, interns. I know how to. I'm trying to find my words right now. But for people who were trained to become doctors as well, and they would sit these women on a chair and basically talk about them like they weren't even there, like they weren't human, like they were talking about a chair. So the way women were treating during breast cancer was really rank. It was really horrible and actually quite traumatic. And again, remember, this is the time when women were in the 60s, 70s, 50s, could not have their own credit card, could not get their own mortgage, could not own property. It was fucking a shit show. So if a woman developed something like that and her husband decided that he didn't want her anymore, it could actually throw her into massive poverty for herself, if not herself and her children. So there was a lot of levels of stress that have never been discussed. This is why I say to you all that women history, different types of histories of people of color it should be taught in middle school and high school. It should be mandatory. But that right there on women's studies and medicine is quite interesting to me, and a horror show. So anyway, going back to Susan Love. So I remember going back to Susan Love and saying, what would you tell someone who's just surviving breast cancer, said, I would tell them that they need to start their marriage from zero. Because the marriage before breast cancer or any cancer was a different marriage. And now a new marriage needs to be built upon the demise of the old marriage. In other words, the relationship now has to be completely different. And I have more to say about that, but what I'm going to say to you is that cancer, there are treatments that are out there all over the world, all kinds of treatments, and some of them are available, but they're available, but at a cost that will literally make you where you don't have the means to access treatments. And so again, this is fuckery, because if it's your twin dealing with cancer, if it's yourself, why? Because part of the reason is that you're going to go through a process of realizing that the infrastructure is by design against your ability to thrive and your ability to go through a massive transformation. I often wondered, and I remember calling and contacting Playboy, just so you know, and asking Playboy, because they've made trillions of dollars on women's breasts, obviously, right? And my whole thing was, why don't you do a spread on a woman who has none? How about that? How about giving back to society? And Playboy, of course, never responded back to my request because, why would they do that? Why would they take a beautiful woman or pretty woman who's gone through a double mastectomy or single mastectomy and do that? Why wouldn't they? Why not? Why not retrain the male gaze to become more transcendental? Why not do that? But they never did. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Unfortunately, I have to go because I've got a lot to do. But I thought I'd bring that up as a conversation. Okay? Let me look here. Let me look. Let me read your comment. The other aspect is that poverty is associated with increased incidence of most diseases. Exactly. Yeah, poverty is totally. So the infrastructure of you having to have 2 fucking jobs. The infrastructure, if you need it, okay? And by the way, I grew up with people, when I was in my 20s, there were a lot of people who had 2 jobs or 4 people living in one house, 4 roommates. The shit's just getting worse, not better. Don't think in the 80s we all had our own fucking apartments. That's not what was happening, okay? I don't know where people are getting this idea. People were still living with their parents, or they were living 4 to 5 in one fucking house. A $1,200, in those days, a house you could get for $1,200 in LA County, in a good area, like, what was it? Los Feliz or Pasadena or Santa Monica. You could still get a house, a whole fucking house, for between $1,200 to $1,500 in the 90s. And 5 people would have to live there to split the rent, just so you know. It's never been good. Okay, let's not get into delusions of 80s and 90s was easy. It fucking wasn't. All my friends lived with their parents or with fucking 5 or 6 roommates. I'm not kidding. 4 to 6 roommates. So that will cause disease, and that will mess up your ascension. So the infrastructure is an ascension prevention. This is why politics and things that actually control your life, your day-to-day, your taxes, your property, all of that, how they educate your kid, what they force, what they don't force, in other words, all the fuckery that is making you feel out of sorts. It's not you that's crazy. Okay, if you're aware of it and it bothers you, you're not crazy, because we're all talking about it. All of us in the spiritual community, all of us that are getting awakened. In fact, some of you got awakened by COVID, the lockdown in 2020. That shit needs to end. Okay, there is a lot of things when CANCER becomes a fucking nonprofit for-profit business. In other words, many of those people I sat across, I'll never forget having these lunches, breakfasts, discussions. I think the symposium was a whole weekend, Friday to Sunday, evening or something like that. And I sat through the classes and sat through the talks and the trainings and the new inventions and the new discoveries and all that. I thought to myself, holy fuck. These people would all be, and this is just this particular USC thing. They would all be fired. There would not be work. Do you understand? There would not be any job for any of them. So I really want you to think about what twin flame journey really means. I want you to think about what twin ray journey really means. I want you to think about what ascension, the business of ascension, really means when it's preventing you to ascend because you're worried about your cell phone bill being cut off or your electricity bill being cut off, or there's a book you want to buy for $15 that's about something that could really open up your mind, and you know it, and you're salivating over your book, but you fucking can't buy it because it's either gas in your car, bus fare, or fucking the book, or maybe not eat a couple days. That's the reality of many, many people, many more. 99% of us live paycheck to paycheck, literally paycheck to paycheck. If you get sick, you are fucked. You will lose the place you live. You will lose everything within 4 to 6 months. They don't give one fuck. Do you understand? Or else you would have unemployment, the kind of unemployment that would cover your rent or your mortgage. That would cover. In other words, it'd be like $500, $600 a week. Okay? So that you could at least cover the bare minimum and hustle up the rest. Hustle up food at food banks, charity churches, whatever, right? But when they give you an unemployment that only gives you enough to drown, slowly drowning, yeah, that's by design. You should be fucking pissed off. And you should say, if this continues, it prevents my ascension. You are not, no offense, you're not Yeshua walking with, sandals on your feet and being able to get shit happening. Somebody's going to donate you some food. Someone's going to donate a shelter. That's not happening. That's not your life. You live in the Western world where you've got it. If you don't make it happen, you end up in a tent. Okay. If you're lucky, you'll have a tent. If you're not, you'll be just on a street, sleeping on a sidewalk. So, still gagged in the UK, but at least we have universal health care. The stats are skewed by inequality. Absolutely. And so, literally so true. Yes. And so we need to get the boomers, right? The boomers who were all teaching us how they used to dance in the 80s. I'm a boomer, proud of it, but not proud of dancing moves. Not today. Not today, my friends. Today, we need to stop dancing and stop reminiscing over the 80s, because the 80s people were making like, what were they making? What the fuck? I think they were making like $2.52, $3 a fucking hour was minimum wage. Are you, where in a studio apartment was like 450, 500? Like, do the math for a second. Just pull out your calculator and see how that. Now, I will say that in the 80s, and that was like 89, and I remember this distinctly, I'll never forget this, buying like 6 bags of organic vegetables for 25 fucking bucks. 25 bucks. Lasted me 2 weeks. I remember the last time where we were so excited, me and my husband, where we bought $100 worth of $100, 8 bags of groceries. We put in our car. We were so excited. We just bought the car. It was a car on layaway. It's a long story. I'll tell you some other time. But here we were with 8 bags of fucking groceries. Everything you can imagine, including sweets, a couple beers, some wine, whatever. Fun shit, good shit, all fabulous. 2 weeks worth of food, $100. That would have been $19.91. Okay? And you could go to the farmer's market and drop 25 to 30 bucks and get, and it got more expensive, but 20 would get you about 4 to 5 bags of groceries, of vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, beans, apples. You get it, right? I don't need to give you the list. And then suddenly, it's just, COVID, and more fuckery, Oh, it's COVID. It's COVID. Well, this is why we can't get parts for cars, and this is why we can't do this and that. And suddenly, overnight, your groceries have gone from maybe, a family of, say, 2 or 3, from $800 a month, right? Let's say you eat really fucking well. Some of you, especially you meat eaters, that, you get a T-bone steak, you get a nice roasted chicken, a turkey, a side of ham. 800, now it's $1,800 if you want to live that way. Or else you're going to be eating lentil and rice or black beans and rice for a couple, like 3 to 4 days out of the week, or a big ass pot of soup and lots of bread, eating wrong, and making a choice between getting yourself multivitamins because the food is stripped. People are doing videos on whether or not that's a cauliflower or that's a cabbage, or what's on my plate. Is it really a bell pepper, or is this fucking genetic manipulation where it's not even cooking? There are people literally taking loaves of bread, like a slice of bread, and washing the whole house with it, and 2 weeks later it's still good. Supposedly bread, okay? Corn has been fucked. I will never eat corn ever again. Never. I see cornfields all over the place. I'm like, they ruin the most important thing. Corn for me represented Pachamama. Corn represents South America. Corn represents this magic of this land of the Americas. Magic. And they took it and fucked with it in so many ways. From here to Hong Kong, you can't even recognize corn. The bread, who knows what the hell it is? And loaves of bread now are $7 a loaf if you're going to get real bread. Like bread that you can recognize, like Dave's bread. I buy Dave's bread. And actually, no, I'm sorry. I buy Ezekiel. Now I have to go Ezekiel. Eggs are $8. No, hang on. If you're going to get eggs that are organic, it's literally like, what is it? $10 a dozen? Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're better off getting chicks, which is, by the way, what I've gotten. I finally went to get, I'm like, fuck, not that I eat eggs, but to also take care of ticks. So suddenly parts of the country are having an explosion of ticks, which create Lyme disease, which create foggy brain. Do you get the shit by design that's happening? If you don't think we have think tanks, there used to be a think tank called Idea Lab. They were in Pasadena, California. And I remember calling them one day just for the hell of it, saying, so what do you guys do? Well, we just talk about theories of society and social experiments and blah, blah, blah. I would say they were in Pasadena for years, and then suddenly, boom, bleep, gone. They were gone. After, I think by 2007, they were gone. Okay, there was no longer an Idea Lab. But they were being hired by massive corporations, because this country is a corporation, right? I hope you know that by now. By now you should know that, or else I don't know what rock you've been under. But anyway, with that said, they used to consult with corporations. It's weird too, because being half French, I remember thinking lobbyists were a definite conflict of interest, And I remember saying that to my American friends, and my American friends didn't understand what I meant by conflict of interest. But you see, when you're bribing people in Congress to push this thing or that thing or the other thing or that agenda or this agenda, it's a problem because, see, they stopped representing us a fucking long time ago. And Kennedy kind of knew it in the 60s, and we know what happened to him, and we know what happened to his brother. So now we have a Kennedy walking in who really doesn't need the fucking money to be a president. He really doesn't. He's good. He's got a garden. He's happy. He's chilling. He's totally, off grid, loving his life. But every once in a while, we'll have someone who's been in the trenches, Prince, Pauper, Prince, if you get my drift. So he's been out there in the trenches looking at how the middle class and lower middle class lives like. So he kind of knows it. Unlike Trump and Biden, who've been, I don't know, they must have nosebleeds from the seats they're up to. In other words, they're looking down at us, not realizing what it is to have a cutoff notice on your cell phone bill, or worse, your electricity or your Wi-Fi. What it is to not eat, not because you're fasting for health, but not eat for 3 days because you don't have the money, and the food bank ran out of fucking food because there's lines of people. They all know that on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month, the food bank will be distributing whatever from Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, or different types of stores, or any donations thereof. And by the second day, they're empty. Their coffers are empty. There's nothing to donate. So there are people to this day. There are people in the 90s. There are people in the... I've lived many, many decades to see that this has been an ongoing problem, getting worse and worse and worse, not better. So for you guys who were born in the 90s or 2000, I can tell you it was always this way, except that somehow we would help each other in communities. For example, if I was broke and I had no food, I could tell you that one of my girlfriends would come, look at her shelves, empty it out, and bring me everything in a bag to say, here's some food. And I would do vice versa. Oh, you're broke? I'll bring you $20 for bus fare or gas. And here's a bag of groceries for my shelves. Do you like black beans? Do you like, I brought you some curry. I brought you some, you know what I mean? We would help each other out. Okay. But the communities that might have still been alive, before COVID lockdown, which put the fear of God in everyone, prevented ongoing communities. Know your neighbor. If you don't know your neighbor's name, if you haven't scoped out your good neighbors and your idiot neighbors, because you're going to have them, your good neighbors, make sure you treat them like gold. Make sure you find out what their birthdays are. Make sure you thank them if they give you an act of kindness by mowing your lawn or whatever the fuck it is, and you're raising chickens give them eggs, or give them a plant, or give them a gift, a card, a gift card, whatever, so they know that you're thinking of them and you're grateful for them as good neighbors. Know your neighbors' names, okay? Know who they are. Don't just stay in your closet, in your apartment. My son, what I love about my son is that every place we've gone to, within a 10-day window, he knows all the neighbors. He knows their names. He knows what floor. When we lived in the apartment in California, he knew everybody. I'm not kidding. He knew who was an asshole and who was fabulous. And then through him, I would get introduced, right? But I remember when I was a kid in my 20s, and we lived in this little Victorian house. There was an elderly lady living below us, and she couldn't walk up the stairs. And if there was a Thanksgiving that I was making, I would bring her meals downstairs. If I was making something special, I would make her a plate and bring it downstairs. She was in her late 60s, and we were in our 20s. Know your neighbor. Take care of your neighbor. Take care of your elders. Seriously. Spend time with them. Go downstairs or upstairs or wherever the hell they live, and spend a little time with them. Bring them something cool, if you're having a birthday, bring them a piece of your birthday cake, that kind of thing. Be generous. Let them know they matter. Let them know you're thinking of them, okay? Especially people who live alone. But COVID taught a lot of people, untrained people, to be kind and to know their neighbors. And that was done by design, okay? By design. Let me see what are your comments here. If you have any comments or questions, any comments. Now there's a ton of, yeah. There are tons of cars. There's tons of everything, but also it's hard out here. Yessie says, and Yessie's a wonderful young woman, and with a beautiful, beautiful heart. She's a beautiful. Follow Yessie, by the way, if you want to. Beautiful soul, beautiful heart, and it is hard out here. It's unkind, and so if you can be kind to someone, be kind. Go out of your way to be kind. I remember somebody lent me $300. This was years ago. This was like in 2014, 2015. I just needed it for a week. Gave it back to them, and then went to Trader Joe's and got him a goodie bag of all the beers he liked, different types of beers, and like little snack things from Trader Joe's in a Trader Joe's bag, and handed it to him and said, thank you. Here's the $300, and here's my thank you gift to you. So it's, because he had to help me out of a jam. It's like, learn how to fucking be grateful to people who show up for you, and go out of your way and think about what would make them happy. You know what I'm saying? What would make them happy? What can I do to thank them so that they realize that you honor them? Don't just give people back money, okay? When they loan you the money, and give the money back, by the way, like in any way you can. Thank you. I appreciate you. You're so sweet. So your Ascension business has a lot to do with the infrastructure that we're sitting on. And if you have a loved one this is why I hated Oprah for so many fucking decades. Money doesn't bring happiness. No, but it gives you the ability to, especially with the prices of everything, to save someone who has cancer. If you have the money and the ability to look at different options in the world of disease of that level, the big C, there are two roads. One is you can do alternative healing, right? The other is that even if you do alternative healing, they are fated to go back home. And one has to accept that fate. But when that road is blocked by lack of money, or lack of good insurance, or lack of kind insurance that doesn't see you as a business, they're trying to do that in England. They're trying to bring our American system to the British, and the British are fighting like fucking mofos. They won't, because they know how everything is coded, how everything, it's a fucking massive business. And because it's $1 trillion business, they're trying, these insurance companies that don't give one F about you, because if they did, they would say, oh, you want to go to Mexico, or you want to go to England for an alternative therapy on your big C. Well, you know what? You're approved. Yeah, go. If they gave a fuck, they would actually say yes. You might say, well, but it hasn't been proven. Yeah, well, neither has chemo, okay? Because some people don't survive it. In fact, one of the reasons my twin didn't go through chemo, just so you know, is because he's too weak to actually do chemo. But alternative therapies could have saved him. Alternative therapies. And these insurance don't give one fuck. It's a massive business. I just found out that there was a friend that my son had. He died. He was 49. He had the big C. And they would not give him what he needed to manage the pain. He was in massive pain. And he ended up passing away. But one of the things they did is they cut off his insurance. By the way, I just posted a woman who worked for Amazon, and Amazon cut off her insurance. And she's got the big C, stage 4, I believe. They cut off her insurance. Amazon. Welcome to Amazon. Yeah. So they don't give a fuck. Cobra is out of this reach, and you know that. You know also that if you get insurance, the Obamacare system, Obama, yeah, let's applaud him out the fucking door. Obamacare is a joke. I just spoke to one of my caretakers that helps me with my twin, and she said to me that her insurance, just the cost for a family of 4, is something like $1,200 fucking dollars, and their deductible is $14,000 fucking dollars. So unless you're getting a massive you come into a massive accident of some kind, there's no way you're going to reach that. So preventive care isn't affordable. It's actually not affordable. One of the reasons why my husband died of a heart attack in 2020 is because he did not want to call the ambulance, because it would have gone on his FICO score, because he couldn't afford the $1,500 for the ambulance to come. Do you get what I'm saying? So can you imagine someone having a heart attack literally thinking about money? Can you imagine? So England got a system one of my friends, Andromeda Flame, actually, and I'm not going to expose you too much, but she told me about a client a patient who, I believe Chinese or Japanese, I forgot, but it doesn't matter. The point is, she's in England, and she was diagnosed with leukemia, and her family's coming in from wherever parts of Asia they're from. I forgot exactly the detail, but anyway, they're flying in, and it's all paid for by the UK. It's paid for. Foreign person, not from that country, who happened to get the diagnosis of their leukemia in the host country, and it's going to be paid for. Do you get what I'm saying? And this is an argument I've had with Americans for a long fucking time, long time. My mother had walking pneumonia, triple walking pneumonia, something insane, and she would have died had she not been in the UK. I can tell you that. It saved her life. It was an award. There was a huge room of maybe 100 people. I'm being real, separated by separators, but it saved her life. She was there for 2 weeks. And I remember when she got better, my father bringing her some Chateauneuf du Pape, some good red wine, some good cheese, some good things, so that would give her strength outside of the hospital food. But it saved her life. Had she been here, she would have died. I remember a story, and I'm going to tell it to you. My father was having a heart attack. He was 61 in San Francisco. And he had a thing, old-timer dude, carried cash on him, right, in his briefcase, ID, social, all that shit. And he's having a heart attack, so they've gone to the hospital in San Francisco, okay? This is 1984, excuse me. And he happens to have $10,000 in his briefcase. He always kept 10 grand in his briefcase. It's just how he was. Long story short, they won't admit him. They do not want to admit him because he has no insurance. So that whole saying of, they can never refuse you service. Yeah, well, they did. It was 1984. And my mother literally pulled out 10 grand and said, well, now, will you admit him, please? Can you please save my husband's life? And they admitted him and received the money, and she got her receipt, and they administered care. Wake up, wake up, wake up. When something like this happens, any health crisis whatsoever, this is Ascension prevention, because your frequency is in place of fear, lack, and stress. And that will fuck up your ascension. Do you understand? You will not be able to meditate. You will not be able to work on your chakras. You won't because you haven't done it long enough. So if you're on the beginnings of your ascension journey, where you're starting to do these things, when you get hit sideways like that by a sledgehammer that you didn't see coming, you're going to have a very hard time towing the line, because you haven't trained yourself to do it. Some of us go through everything I've just told, we go through it, but we're able to maneuver in and out of these incredible challenges because we have our spiritual compass, and it's pretty solid by now. It's pretty solid. And so do you see how this could fuck up your ascension? Do you see how that could? And do you see why it's by design? And do you see why it's important for you to get more political aware? Because politics determine the infrastructure we've accepted so far. And it's not working. Or else Tucker Carlson, who went to Russia, threw in like 2 weeks worth of food in his cart. And they all agreed that it'd be about $400, $500 what they had just thrown in. And the tab was 105. Pissed off a lot of people in the political party, because they felt like he was being disloyal American. No, he wasn't. He was showing Americans that we're being fucked over by our own system. Okay? He did the right thing. In fact, if anything, he's a patriot because he's finally showing us what we need to see. Okay? Love you, sister. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and helping the collective understand the truth. Thank you. I'm so hello. First time commenting on your page. Actually, it's time I get to catch you in a live. I've been listening to your YouTube videos. I'm very much drawn to your page. That's very kind of you. And you are very grateful for the healthcare system in Canada. When I hear these stories, it's so hard to imagine. Oh, of course it's hard to imagine, because it's brutally, it's actually cruel. It's disingenuous. It's cruel. And it's cruel because somebody will need. Do you remember John Q with Denzel Washington? If that movie, I don't know why that movie never woke people up to socialized medicine. Oh, but it's social. It's socialism. It's like commie stuff. Really? France has been doing pretty well until COVID. I was talking to my cousin he's in the outskirts of Paris. He's a country boy. He's a farrier. And he was telling me, yeah, shit's really changed. Doctors have left. Most of the ER hospitals are closed. But it's still, from what you're saying, it's what we got is still better than what you got in the States. What does that tell you? It's like, what the fuck is going on? Meanwhile, you've got doctors. One doctor, I posted this, by the way, who actually stopped his clinic because he will not continue giving people the pharma shit pushed by the FDA. See, approved by the FDA. Yeah, that should make you run, okay? There was an eye drop, very, very good company. I forgot I'll give you the name if you want, but they removed their product. Very good eye drops, excellent eye drops. Never had a problem with them. Natural, fabulous, and of course the FDA removed it. Okay, so now all they have now is for the ears. They have like ear drops only. They've been allowed, but this company, I was buying from them for years. Not one incident of any issue. So whatever they came up with to remove that product from the market was probably from, the Johnson & Johnson companies and all these fucking other companies that decided that, they were a competition worth removing and they had enough muscle to do it. And so they did it. Okay? That's just what they do. So anything you and I find that's really good, like in France, you can go to pharmacies for your skincare, for good arnica, not the crap that, good arnica care, good products. You can find it in pharmacies all across France, and I'm sure in Switzerland, I remember that too. And great products that are pure. In other words, there's not a lot of shit in it that you can't pronounce. It's pure shit that will take care of your issue, and it's just boom, it handles your that's it within like a few days. Like even aspirins is in a powder form, so it goes right through your bloodstream. Shit like that we don't have. We still don't have shit like that by design, because it's good, because it works, because it's pure. And they keep preventing companies to come in and bring knowledge. You would think by now American doctors and the system would go to Europe to learn European wisdom on healthcare. You would think they would say, Europe's been around for a long fucking time, right? And they use all kinds of different protocols, homeopathy, herbalism, tinctures, this and that. Why don't we go and learn from them? What a concept! What an idea! Because we're the best. We everything we do is the best. The arrogance needs to stop. We can learn from everyone. I have shamans I learn from, of course. I would never be so crass as to say I can't learn anything new from anyone else. I've learned every challenge I've had has been a learning lesson, which I discovered healers that taught me massive, massive shit. Like one, Stephen Buhner, who's an amazing American herbalist, who's fantastic, who has cured millions of people from Lyme using an herbalist protocol that doctors today in ER still don't fucking know he exists, or that he's alive, or that he's cured millions of people from a simple fucking protocol. Because once you're done with the antibiotics, 3 weeks into it, the Lyme disease morphs into spirochetes. And you need Japanese knotweed. And he talks about how Japanese knotweed is an intelligent plant. It will grow massively in areas when Lyme disease is about to fucking blow up. It will just start proliferating. And what do our ecologists and these idiots do? Park and rec, whatever. They go in and they use weed killer, like Roundup, for example. So the bees can die and butterflies can. It's just the level of it's beyond concept. It's beyond sense. And this man is a very quiet, reclusive herbalist, but you can look him up. The Lyme disease, he's done a book on natural antibiotics and natural viral systems and herbs, which I have in my library. Like you should not be without these books. Stephen Buhner, Stephen Phen, and Buhner. Bloody hell! Let me see if I can give you the spelling, okay? Because you guys need to know this shit. You have to know this. His name is Stephen Harrod, Harrod. RROD, Buhner, B like boy, UHNER, herbal antibiotics, natural alternative for treating drug-resistant bacteria. You have to have these books in your library, my friends, because they don't give one fuck about you. And George Carlin kept telling us that with jokes, but then he gets serious, if you remember him. Tincture for and he's actually recognized in Europe. He's actually highly respected. He travels, but here he's an American jewel, right? He's American jewel and unrecognized by the American established medical community. It's just like it's insane. It's insane. Insane. I remember my twin got Lyme in 2016, walked into the ER at 3 o'clock in the morning, was told by a little snippy doctor, oh yeah, it's probably laundry detergent reaction rash. I'm like, that's not a fucking rash. Bullseye were exploding all over. You could see it. And finally, I put my foot up the ass and said, you better find me someone who knows what the hell they're talking about. This is upstate New York. Lyme disease country. And finally, at 6:30 in the morning, walks in a doctor saying, oh yeah, he's got Lyme. And they put him on a protocol right away. And when he got out of the hospital, I had him on the Stephen Buhner protocol. And for years, he was right as rain. We were going hunting and foraging for Japanese knotweed up in the Catskill Rivers, up in Massachusetts, into Vermont. I kid you not. We were doing our own tinctures and teas. And he was drinking a gallon of Japanese tincture tea a day. By the way, guess what it's called? Japanese knotweed is resveratrol, which is an antioxidant, which is used in skincare. It's used in vitamins. The only other resveratrol you'll find is grapes. It's weird how the ignorance of our natural resources are pushed by design, are pushed aside by design. It's crazy. So I have to go. I have a session with a client, believe it or not, but I hope this helps. It's called invasive plant medicine. Dr. Sibi is a good one. Yes, he is. But he did other things. This guy, all he is herbs. All he is healing herbs. So he's fantastic. Thank you, James, for being here. Any other questions or comments before I go? Because I got to jump off. So I will put this up on my YouTube channel so you guys can check it out. And again, we need to do better. We cannot escape the responsibility of being politically aware now. We can't play that game anymore. Well, I don't like politics at all until I started growing up. Okay, I grew up and I saw that these people, these senators, were fucking with my livelihood, with my ability to thrive, with my ability to buy the books I needed to get more in tune with my own spirituality. They were infringing on my ability to travel to places like Nepal. Or why? Because they had decided for years that a minimum wage of $4, $3, $4 was enough. You know, it's kind of like an idiot saying, oh, well, you know, it's only 10 cents a day they get paid. Yeah, but you know, it's the way they live there is different. No, it's not. It's called poverty. They're poor there too. I've literally heard people say to me, well, you know, it's different there because, you know, they can make do with very little. No, they can't. They're fucking poor. There's no clean running water. What are you fucking talking about? 10 cents a day. But that's the logic of these people. They live up on these high towers, these 1%, and these senators are their dogs. They're like trained monkeys. They do what they're told by the 1%. Once we understand that as a collective community, and once we put our foot to ass to demand our rights given to us back, meaning if you are infringing on my ability to thrive, get the fuck out of my way. You're in my way and you're my enemy. If you want to help me thrive and you want to come up with policies and things that are going to help me and my family thrive, good, you're my buddy. And so far, Kennedy seems to have some real interesting concepts, including putting our whole federal government on blockchain. Look that up and look out why he wants to do that. I'm not trying to push you on that agenda of Kennedy, but so far, he's doing independent. He's running independently, and I'm not really sold on Jill Stern at all. There's nothing she's saying. Oh, well, I'll stop the war, and I don't want to hear that shit. I want to hear real shit that I know can be accomplished. Whoever comes in can actually reverse a lot of the damage Biden has done. Believe me, reverse it. And Kennedy is a person I feel would do that. Either that, and people, so I was talking to a client who was saying, well, my fear is that it will take the vote away and we'll still have Biden. My whole point to him is this collective fear of, if I don't vote for Trump, we will get Biden back. That collective fear is by design. It's to get either Trump in or by there. It's like a quarter. One side is face, the other is tail. What the fuck's the difference? Look at Trump's background and his son-in-law and their agendas. Okay? A lot of it might have been conspiracy theories, which is not a bad thing, but some of it was solid. And many of you have had developed amnesia on Trump. Okay, we voted for him, not his daughter to be part of his cabinet. But remember, she was part of his cabinet. Do you remember that people were actually boycotting her clothing line in all the major stores? Do you guys remember that? Or have you forgotten? For a reason. Because people were like, wait, hang on. I voted for him, not his daughter or his son-in-law to be part of the cabinet. What the fuck's going on here? Oh, you're getting one for the price of three. No, see, this is not the dollar store in politics. I want to vote for one person. And I want them to have a very clear agenda and a clear policy of what they're going to do, including reverting this TikTok ban, for example. I want the TikTok ban reverted back, where it's removed. Thank God it's not going to come into play until January of next year. But the point is, depending on who we vote for, that can be reversed. And we can finally have the freedom of speech we deserve. Again, if they muzzle our voice, if they muzzle our ability to discuss with each other and to form groups, to talk about what's not happening that is making us thrive, then they're against us. It's that simple. They're against us. And if they're against us, then we need to remove them through going to the voting booths and convincing people of the lesser of two evil is not the way to go any longer. It never worked, because here we are staying on literally the threshold of the abyss or the ascension. It is up to you. The abyss or the ascension. Which way will you go? Will you vote with fear and lack consciousness, or will you manifest a new age? It's really simple. And so you have to be comfortable in talking about these things at the dinner table. You want to have a fight with grandma? This is the fight to have. You want to have a fight with Uncle Bob? This is the fight to have, my friends. That's the argument. What do you mean you're voting for Trump? What do you mean you're voting for Biden? Well, Democrats all the way. Why? Why? It's like saying, oh, I'm only going to vote for a woman. Why? Why if she's like Margaret Thatcher? Why if she's like Hillary Clinton? What kind is that you want? You just want a woman? You don't want a female with consciousness? I'd vote for a man before I ever did that. So it's like, stop voting for archetypal ideas and vote for the heart and consciousness of the person running. Okay? Look at the person. Listen to what they're saying. Do you really think Kennedy at the age of 70 really needs to do this? You could say, well, Trump, he didn't need to do that. No, but he's a businessman, and he knew the kind of power he could wage and the kind of money and billion-dollar deals he could write up from that vantage point. And so he did. He ran a business out of that. It was clear, he didn't lie about it. And it's not, I don't care that he's been indicted. That doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me is that he really truly doesn't know what it's like and doesn't want to know what it's like to be you and me. He doesn't know what it's like to live in a tent. He's never once, see, the thing about Clinton, even though, Bill Clinton, is that he was good at making it look like he gave a shit. I mean, fait accompli. During the time that he was running, we thought he came up with the town hall meeting. The town hall meeting, that was his invention. He did it. And it was about really listening to people and really understanding where people were at. And so he was able to say what people wanted to hear and to get into office for 8 years, right? But there was something about him where he gave people the impression that he was going to make massive changes. And when he tried to do socialized medicine, for all of us with Hillary Clinton at the time, they had come up with a solution, but it was attacked by the Senate. Okay? And I remember that distinctly. Distinctly. Okay, there was another idea he had of just pumping your gas and you'd have car insurance. It would be automatic. It was attacked. And so finally they gave up and just pushed paper around and fucking did what and started making money. I'm sure they made massive deals. And they're kind of messed up. They're a messed up couple, but I think they got burned out. Okay? I'm not a follower or a supporter of the Clintons. Believe me. I think Hillary Clinton is an absolute horror. Okay? An absolute horror. Or else, when she was senator in New York, things would have been beautiful and things would have changed in a beautiful way, but they did not. So I'm not stupid. I know what I'm talking about, but I do remember distinctly them trying to do some pretty interesting things that they had promised to do. And then it was absolutely boycotted by the Senate because of our lobbyists, our fabulous lobbyist friends, connected to the insurance companies and all these corporations, obviously. So the first point of business, in my humble opinion, is to outlaw lobbyists. There should not be any lobbyists. I'm sorry, you're fired. We don't need you. Get yourself another job. Get some tech training. I don't know if I can become an Oracle programmer. I don't give a shit. But you're no longer a lobbyist. Does that make sense? It needs to end. Because senators should work for the people. And if they can't work for the people because the lobbyists are in the way constantly preventing us from thriving, then they are part of the problem and they need to be removed. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about, but I'm going to let you go. And I want to thank you so much for being here and for caring enough you guys are patriots because you want to hear options. You know what I mean? You want to hear options. And I love that about you guys. And I hope that you'll be comfortable in talking about with your families, with those you love, and all 7 of you that are left. I want to send you so much love and so much of all the abundance the world has to offer you. That is your right, your birthright. And really, really much hugs. Please try to look at some of my videos on manifestation. I think my next live, I'm going to talk about how to manifest because people are having a hard time with that one. And so I'll tell you what, I'll make a commitment to you. Just try to make sure you know that when my lives are coming on. I can't promise, but I may jump back on after I do this session with this client and we'll talk about how to manifest and the nitty-gritty of manifesting and why people fail and on global scale, but also when you're good at manifesting, what things can happen to you to trigger you lowering your frequency due to grief, loss, despair, and how you can kind of ride that wave to some level of neutrality so you don't sink into absolute loss. Does that make sense? I hope I make sense. So if you want, in a couple hours, look for me on a live again in 3 hours, and we'll go for there, okay? So just follow me on that, all right? Sending you much love. That would be awesome, Tony. We need help with that. Yeah, let's talk about that. So we'll do a class, and I'll discuss things, and I need you guys to have your paper, notepads, everything ready, and we'll get, so I'm going to say, hang on. Give me until 9 p.m. Eastern and I'll be back. Okay? 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be back if you want that class. Okay? Because there's going to be a class on that. And I'm doing it for free. Typically, me and Andromeda do these classes. And we're going to do our own classes more in depth on that at some point. But I think you guys need it. You 7. Okay? So it's for you guys that I'm doing it. All right. Sending you much love. I'll talk to you soon. Namaste. Be well.